The whole point of stopping and rejigging and reconfiguring the social investment program, in particular the direct payments to beneficiaries, is so that ex post we can identify who the funds have gone to, when they went to them, and how much went to them, and within the constraints of privacy laws, that it can be made available to the public. So your answer is yes. You have requested a dashboard of transfers. That is being done. As far as the Supreme Court ruling on local governments, Mr. President is a Democrat. He believes in federalism. He believes in fiscal federalism. He fought for it as a state governor. And so what has come to pass now is a new regime, a new fiscal regime where through the state joint local government account, funding will go directly to the local governments. There is a committee. It involves the Federal Honorable Attorney General, as well as representatives of the local governments and the states, and of course the federal government, within the context of the Federation Account Allocation Committee that is looking at the practicality of moving to what the Supreme Court has said. There are impediments, practical impediments to immediate implementation, such as the fact that, and the governors have moved immediately to hold local government elections because the funds have to go to elected governments. But also in practical terms, there was a Federal Accounts Allocation Committee meeting just last week, but it could not yet implement because, in fact, the judgment, the actual proceedings had not been handed down. They were not in the hands of the Attorney General for him to start implementing. So what is going to happen is, under a presidency that believes in the rule of law, the Supreme Court judgment on local governments will be faithfully implemented. Joseph, Ways and Means, the figure that has been paid down is 7.3 trillion. When we talk about the improvement of inflation, we did. We acknowledged that there was even a slight uptick in June. We acknowledged that rather than slowing, it is, rather than reversing, what is happening is the rate of increase is slowing as a first step. We expressly said food inflation is 50% of the inflation basket. And we had said, we showed where agriculture was coming from. In the first quarter of 2023, it grew negatively. That's where you look to see why is there food inflation when there is low agricultural output. And we showed that in the first quarter of 2023, it had reversed. That trend was now upward, no matter how small. And we mentioned and we explained the commitment to agricultural output growth, and we said in the short term, these are the measures that are going to be taken, that are being taken to make food affordable and available. The situation as of now is that that is in process. So the commitment is to make food affordable and available even in the shortest time, to intervene in the markets. That is the commitment, that is, and I think I ended by saying, look, we have had to interrogate the data, look at the evidence, and show how the building blocks of an economy that can grow are being put in place. However, what is uppermost and of major concern to Mr. President and his entire administration is getting food prices down. If they weren't up, the commitment that is there wouldn't be, the urgency wouldn't be there. So it is an acceptance that we must move as fast as possible from where we are. Governors were provided with 20 trucks of rice per state. The food reserves of government have been released separately from what went to states. There's ongoing release. There is, as I said, importation taking place on a temporary basis, not in a way that would now discourage, incentivize, and hurt local domestic producers. No, it's raw materials for them to make into finished goods, to make into food, to make into feed. So focus is on the agricultural sector in a fight. It's a war to get food prices down. That's where we are. And, you know, if I also go on from there and look at the question that came up about social unrest. We are in a democracy. The right to protest, the right to freedom of speech is guaranteed in a democracy and under our Constitution. The appeal is this: the costs of the reforms that were not just necessary, that without them the economy would not be here today. You can say, and you can just go back and interrogate the figures, 2% of GDP was being spent on subsidy. The foreign exchange regime meant the foreign exchange was reserved for a few people who are making enormous profits from it. And the whole economy was built around those two major misalignments. It has been saved, but it's at a cost. And it takes time. The costs come first, then the benefits. So the appeal and the urging is not that Nigerians should not say what they are feeling. It is that they should give President Bola Ahmed Tinubu more time. He has heard them, and he needs more time to push through his attempt to ameliorate the major costs, particularly on the poor and the most vulnerable. And he has put down his plan to help manufacturing as a whole. And there are people who look at this oil-rich, resource-rich, agriculture-rich, 200 million plus population economy, and they say this is somewhere where I can come and invest and thrive in a way I cannot in so many other countries. Those are the conversations that people are having. Last week, I met an investor, an assembler in the Nigerian economy, and the person said to me, the president has announced that he's aiming at a $1 trillion economy. He will need investments like I am willing to make, because I look at this economy and I want to be able to build a $1 billion economy in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm going to state what I need from government to do that. That is where we are on the verge of. And I will just end by saying the most critical thing to Mr. President at this time is that food prices come down, whatever it takes. Joseph, I think I mentioned to you that despite high interest rates, there are attractions in this market that mean that people are borrowing, are finding a way to blend that borrowing with equity and to invest. AFP News, I think I've answered you. The Eurobond issuance. Nigeria is currently holds the chair of the African Caucus. That is the grouping of African finance ministers and governors of central bank at the World Bank. We have a meeting of that caucus next week. And we will showcase to them what it is important for Africa to do. That is rely on its own resources. And those resources, they include the resources of Nigerians in diaspora, Africans in diaspora. We need to attract those savings. And indeed, we need to attract the savings of Nigerians that keep their money abroad. We have an open exchange rate system. It's not illegal. And so we have an issuance of a dollar-denominated security, not depending on the financial architecture of the Western world, not depending on the kind of architecture that you use to raise Eurobonds. We're using the Nigerian financial system, the Securities and Exchange Commission, the banking system, the investment bankers to issue $500 million in the first instance that will be available and will attract foreign currency held by Nigerians abroad and anybody else who buys in to the macroeconomic reform efforts of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That issue is a challenge to the best and the brightest in our financial markets. It is due to open in the next 3 to 4 weeks maximum. Right now, depending on the success of that issue, there is no talk of looking to go to the international markets to raise a Eurobond. It is one of the options that we have. It is, the markets are open to us. Our ratings and our performance merit it. The market is open to us, but we prefer, in the first instance, to challenge Nigerians to come home with their money and be part of the Nigerian reform success story that we believe that is where the economy is headed, although these are very, very early stages. But we are in the right direction. We have turned the corner. The economy is set for growth, and it is set for success. Thank you.